here. Today we were going to do a product-specific webinar covering a few of our products, not the entire line for this one, as these are our newest products. My name is Brian Walskowski, good Italian name. I've been with the company DATA-LINC about 6 years now. I'm Eastern Regional Sales Manager. I cover business development, sales, trade shows, and the like. And through those adventures, I was able to catch up with Jay Chambers, and we've worked on several different projects along the way. Philip, did you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Dilip Karna, and I work as a product engineer at DATA-LINC Group. My primary responsibilities include product R&D, customer pre-sales and technical support, product documentation, and customer training. I have been with the company for about 3 years now.
Okay, so everybody knows, yeah, we're going to record for training purposes as well. So we may even post it on a video site as well. Jay, did you have any beginning comments?
Yeah, I'll just say that I've worked since I've been down here. Shortly after I got down here, about a little over 4.5 years ago, I got to know Brian, and I think the first project I worked on with Brian was distributed I/O with DATA-LINC products, and just whether it's the radios for standard telemetry or distributed I/O, it's been some fun product. So DATA-LINC kind of fills some unique niches in the marketplace, and we're not going to cover all of them, obviously, but you'll see some pricing and configurations that they have that are pretty unique for Rockwell and Compass partners, and so that's why we kind of put this together, because being aware of this is really a good opportunity for you folks. So I'll let you move on now.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about some of the features, the specs on these modems, operation and configuration, how to use them, what installations they most apply towards different network types, and our software specific for our newest modem, the EdgeLink, and of course a migration plan to get you where you need to go. Okay, advance. DATA-LINC, in case you guys didn't know, we were established in 1988. We actually introduced long-range frequency hopping spread spectrum wireless technology to Rockwell back in the day. So we designed the modems, all industrial grade products. There's a lot of modems out there that claim to be of a higher grade, but as the customers find out, sometimes they end up calling us if they want to save a few bucks anyways on the wireless piece, which generally is the most important part of the application if you have wireless locations. And we've been a global Encompass partner for over 30 years with them. Where we're most present, water wastewater is probably our biggest market that we take care of, power utility, and perhaps our largest single application is in the transportation field. Our wireless link between road construction trailers that do direction and communication. We've been doing that for about a decade. Metals and mining, we have many applications where cheaper modems just aren't robust enough to handle those types of terrains. Oil and gas, also a big one for us. And then we do food and beverage and some others as well. Okay. Jay, I was wondering, did you have a specific field that you guys handle mostly? Is it water, wastewater? What do you deal with mostly?
Yeah, you nailed it. Water, wastewater covers probably 85–90% of anything we do in communications. telemetry. It's municipalities, occasionally private, but almost all of it is municipalities. So almost all of it is going back to a master from lift stations, but occasionally we get into wells and so yep, water, wastewater.
Perfect. In regard to our products, again, we do strictly industrial grade wireless modems, and believe it or not, we still sell some wired modems in areas where wireless just is not possible, and fiber is just way too expensive. Still get calls for those. The only deal with those is you have to make sure that the analog lines are going to remain in place, or else you're holding pretty expensive paperweights. So we do all the accessories too, all the peripherals. We're looking at different types of antennas, whether it be an AMI or a Yagi antenna or a panel view. We also do all the coax cables and lightning arrestor surge protectors. We certainly don't want customers saying, oh, well, we're going to use our own cables. Don't worry about that. We got that covered. We've had some projects go south in a hurry when they were manufacturing their own surge protectors. We found out somehow they reversed polarity and they kept blowing up the modems. Some customers, oh, we got cables in the back, we'll use that, are all spliced up. We don't particularly make a lot of money on accessories. Our margins are very slim, but over the years we found out to sell the appropriate accessories is the way to go, because when the customer's wireless link goes down, first thing they do is they blame the modem, right? We got to make sure they have new coax cables, connections. That's critical. We also offer pre-sales consultation. We do free virtual site surveys to a degree. I mean, if you have 30 sites, we'll talk about what that would cost. But typically, we just focus on the harshest areas. Just give us the GPS coordinates. We can plug in those locations and see the feasibility of that wireless link. Even telling you how high you would have to put the antenna, if the modems are actually too close, or you have to have a repeater in a certain spot. We can identify those things pretty quickly without even going out and doing a physical site survey. We've gotten very, very good at that. Post-sale support beyond the modems. We don't just say, here's the modems, have a nice day. We get calls all the time. When a customer is down, they need attention right away. If they're down on a Saturday, I'll answer a call. I'll get someone else involved if I have to. But we're there for the customer and the distributor all the way through to the end. And proof of concept. Of course, we want to make sure that we do our homework ahead of time, so we don't waste the customer's time, the distributor's time. We want to, if we see that wireless communication is just not going to work, we'll refer them to somebody else for either fiber. We have many companies that we recommend along the way, but we like to make sure that things are going to be outstanding as far as the wireless link goes. We don't want to sell a customer something that's probably going to work good most of the time. That just doesn't work in the wireless world. It has to be a solid link. Okay? Advance. And for those of you who have seen some of our products out in the field, we have products running, for an example, out in the desert for over a decade, untouched. So you may see an inch of dust on these things where they're located. But as you can, just by looking at them, you can see this is a very robust, sturdy product. It's not made for, household type applications. These are the real deal. So again, we've been doing this a long time, and our products last a long time as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dilip so we can get into the specifics of those products.
Thank you, Brian. So like Brian said, we specialize in modems and nothing else. The modems are used for wireless data communication, which happens to have an important spot in industrial automation. Especially with the advent of IoT and IIoT, the world is getting more and more connected every day. And that's where we fit in. IoT and IIoT is all about connecting devices wirelessly, and we have been doing that quite successfully since the age of M2M. We introduced frequency hopping spread spectrum in Rockwell channel in the 90s, and since then our products have evolved highly over time. Today, we are among a few Rockwell partners who have been able to integrate advanced technologies like edge computing and adaptive spectrum hopping in our products. These two concepts are also going to be the highlight of today's presentation. So coming down to the technical part, this SRM8200 is the 4th generation product in the SRM family and implements cutting-edge technologies like adaptive spectrum learning and edge computing. We have actually taken a quantum leap with 8200 in terms of technologies, and that makes it not backward compatible to earlier SRMs. But that's not to worry about. We have migration plans on how to integrate SRM8200 with earlier generations of SRMs and optimize your network. So this is the SRM8200 front interface. It comes with 2 Ethernet port and 2 serial port and 1 micro USB port. The serial port and the Ethernet ports can be used for data exchange, while the Ethernet ports can also be used for configuration, and so can be the micro USB port. The antenna connector, SMA female type antenna connector, it's the same type which we have in the previous SRM. So if you have the older generations of SRM family of products, you could still be using the same types of cables and antennas. For the power, it's a low power consumption radio. It comes with 2-pin Phoenix power connector and a couple of indicator lights for troubleshooting your network. So that's basically the front interface. It's a ruggedized, designed industrial kind, can withstand harsh environment. And I guess it goes up from negative 40 degrees Celsius to positive 170 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's talking about some of the features. It's a license-free 900 megahertz band, ISM band radio. It operates from 902 to 928, the standard ISM band. We are working on the 2.4 gigahertz version, but it's not released yet. We will have it probably by the end of this year. It's a high-speed modem. You have speed selectable from 115 kbps to 4 Mbps. So depending upon the type of application you have, you could select from 115 kbps to 250 kbps to 500 kbps to 1 MB and 4 Mbps. It's a long-range modem. Without repeaters, if you have good line of sight and idle conditions, it could go up to 40 miles. We have installations in Hawaii where it goes 60 miles without repeaters. If there's a need where you want more than 40 miles, we can do a site survey and verify if there's if you need a high gain antenna or a repeater to cover longer range. But the idle spec for this modem is 40 miles. It comes with Ethernet and serial port, dual Ethernet, dual serial ports, and is compatible with several Ethernet protocols and serial protocols like Ethernet IP or DF1 and several others out there. The benefit of having dual port is through one port, you could connect it to your equipment, for example, PLC or HMI, and another port will still be empty, which can be used for troubleshooting. And your operation, your process won't be disrupted while you are doing troubleshooting on your network. It's secured by AES-256. The mechanism for data transmission here is adaptive frequency hopping spread spectrum, which in itself is a pretty secure mechanism of data transmission, because the carrier frequency hops from one frequency channel to another frequency channel very, very fast, and the sequence is pseudo random. It's almost impossible for an intruder to hack into this into the message. But on top of that, we have AES-256 to secure the message being exchanged over the network. It's an industrial grade radio. we will see some more features of 8200. It comes with edge computing. I won't talk a lot about edge computing on this slide, but I'll talk in detail in coming slides. Edge computing is basically a distributed computing mechanism, unlike a central SCADA approach, where the data you collect from your devices, the field devices, can be collected, processed, and analyzed locally, almost in real time. And there are certain benefits of having edge computing. We have added edge computing power to the wireless device. So SRM8200 is not just a traditional kind of radio. It's more than just a radio with this edge computing power added to it. It comes with IP filtering and SNMP support. IP filtering will help you get rid of non-radio traffic into your LAN. With SNMP support, it lets you work with SNMP managers, like where you could upload the MIB file and get into network diagnostics in pretty detail. One of the coolest feature of this SRM8200 is the network map, where you could see all the remotes or the repeaters or the gateway, the master, in a live map. Just by plugging in the IP address of the radio, you will see a live map with all the nodes out there, and see which ones have good RF strength, bad RF strength, things like that, and several RSSI or signal noise numbers, the speed, all of those stats can be seen from that map as well. It's not available in any of our radios other than SRM8200. This is the latest feature we have added to our product line. You could also download a support bundle for troubleshooting. The support bundle actually is just a zipped file which contains all the configuration parameters for the specific radio, and we could actually load those files on our system here and check whether you have done any configuration programming mistakes or anything like that. It can be downloaded just by the IP address /support, and this helps usually during troubleshooting. It makes the entire process easier. As in earlier versions, you had to take a screenshot of the configuration settings and send it to us, and we could check those screenshots and then communicate with you to see if any changes is necessary. But with SRM8200, you could just download the support bundle and send the support bundle to us, and that support bundle will have all the configuration settings. So that's a huge help in troubleshooting in field. Moving on, some of the advanced features. One of them is adaptive spectrum learning. This adaptive spectrum learning is a mechanism by which underutilized channels are detected and used. It sort of gathers intelligence about RF parameters and take optimal advantage of spectrum gaps. There are several benefits of having adaptive spectrum learning on a radio. It basically first better spectrum access and utilization. It reduces and maintains level of interference to nearby systems. So in a way, if you have a lot of wireless, independent wireless networks operating close by, you won't have to deal with this manually. If for example, some of your wireless networks probably are operating in the same ISM band, for example, 915 or 920, then the radio has the ability to intelligently decide what's the best band in 900 spectrum ISM band, spectrum band, and will decide what's the best band to transmit and receive. So it will do that by itself. You won't have to deal with it. So it's going to be a huge help and an instrumental technology in solving RF interference problems and advanced IoT and IoT in this industrial 4.0 revolution. It's a build-up from the FHSS technology, but together with FHSS, this is going to build a robust scheme for wireless communication. Listen before talk is another mechanism which allows wireless systems to look for breaks in spectrum channels and then transmit in that channel. The adaptive spectrum technology is actually, it actually follows this mechanism. So in a varying traffic load environment, this is going to help you maintain performance of the individual system. This forward error correction is a mechanism which, with the help of which you could control errors in data transmission, and it gives you the ability to correct errors without a need to retransmit data. It's applied in situations where retransmission is costly. It's a valuable feature to have in a radio. Not a lot of manufacturers today have forward error correction. Similarly, packet compression and packet aggregation. This is the building of multiple packets into single transmission unit, and it reduces overhead associated with each transmission. So overall, it makes error recovery easier, and it's useful in situations where transmission unit may have significant overheads. So talking about the mounting options, by default from factory, it comes with mounting brackets that are installed at the bottom of the unit. But depending upon your need, the brackets can actually be moved to the side of to the back of the unit as well. So you see the first image here. I'm not sure if you all can see my mouse, cursor, but the brackets come by default and are installed at the bottom of the unit. But this can be moved onto the side, onto the back of the unit as well. So that allows multiple orientation and for installation. On top of that, you could install a DIN rail clip at the back of the unit, and that allows for vertical as well as horizontal mounting. So if you combine all of these options, there are several mounting options, and SRM8200 can be mounted vertically, horizontally, or in many different angles. Can be rack mounted, surface mounted, DIN rail mounted, and there are several options in mounting this radio. So operation and configuration. There are 4 modes of operation. It's gateway, endpoint, gateway repeater, endpoint repeater. The gateway can be considered as a conventional kind of master, whereas the endpoint can be considered as a conventional kind of remote. The gateway repeater is a type of repeater which is less used, but it's basically implemented in situations where you want to connect 2 endpoints and there is no line of sight between 2 endpoints. The endpoint repeater is more of a conventional kind of a repeater where you want to connect any 2 nodes in a network. The configuration can be done via web interface just by the IP address. The default IP address of SRM8200 is 192.168.111.100, and you could use your any browser of your choice. Just plug in the IP address of this radio and do the configuration. The network diagnostics configuration. All of that is just doable through one web interface. There are other 3 mechanisms of configuration as well: drag and drop, using the micro USB port. So you get a CFG file, and the CFG file can be edited in Notepad or any TXT editor, .txt editor. You could save that file in a CFG again and load that file. Just drop that file back into the storage area of SRM8200, and the modem will reboot itself, and you will have the modem configured. Another 2 methods: the command line interface. Some folks out there still like command line, so you could use terminal emulator programs like Hyperterminal, PuTTY, Procom, Terraterm, or many others out there for configuration. Secure cell is yet another mechanism on the default port using the IP address port 22 and the default IP address. You could go through secure cell as well and configure this radio. So basically, the radio can be configured via the Ethernet port and the micro USB port. The micro USB port actually uses just the Android phone charging cable, not the C-type, but the older one, because while we were developing this radio, the C-type port wasn't out there. So it still uses the previous generation of C-type, but it can be configured via micro USB port as well. one question that was raised recently about security issue of the micro USB port. So we have added a feature where you have the ability to lock or unlock, meaning enable or disable the micro USB port as well as the Ethernet ports. We have seen some situations where networks are hacked just through USB ports. So the USB port that we have on the radio is now secured, and you have the ability to lock or unlock the port. And every time the port is logged, you will need login credentials to unlock that port back again. One benefit that comes with 8200 is the firmware. That firmware can be updated, or configuration changes can be done over the air. You don't have to visit the sites physically and do the configuration or firmware changes. It can be done over the air as well, and the radio will reboot itself after changes, and it will be ready for operation. With SRM8200, you could form point-to-point or point-to-multipoint networks. In point-to-point, just to have two radios, or in point-to-multipoint, it could go from star topology to ring topology to hybrid, using repeaters or mesh. And in sense of mesh, because remotes can talk to remotes directly. For example, remote number 6 can talk to remote number 7 directly without having to go through the master. We say, if you have good line of sight, any radio can talk to any radio. And in that sense, we say you could also design a mesh network using SRM8200. There are two channels, basically two modes, single channel mode and hopping mode. The single channel mode is used for higher data rates above 500 kbps, whereas the hopping channel mode is used for lower speeds. In the single channel mode, you don't need a gateway, and the radio modes really don't matter. All the endpoints can talk to endpoints, and it synchronizes itself and can broadcast or receive messages and transmit throughout the network without need for the gateway. In a hopping mode, you need a gateway. The gateway is used to synchronize the message being transmitted over the network. It's useful for situations where you have application which needs lower data rates, like 115 kbps or 250 kbps. So every radio broadcasts the entire network, and all radios can talk directly to each other if they are within RF range. So this is the network diagnostics map I was talking about. Here, I just have two radios here. One of them, the square one, is the gateway, and the round one is the circular one is the endpoint. If I hover my mouse over any node, it will show me the radio stats, like I see here at the bottom left corner of the screen. The node ID, IP address, operation mode, the noise, sensitivity, VSWR, transmit, receive, transmit success. All of these 7 important parameters that you get as a local diagnostics option from the web interface. These are available at the side of this modem here, and the green lines indicate that there is good wireless link, and it shows the speed as well. Whereas if you have red lines, that would indicate that you don't have good connection. From the options option here towards the top of the screen here, there are several options. For example, update RSSI, update radio stats, or update the layout, or several other things that can be done from this live network diagnostics map. This mapping option is not available with a lot of manufacturers. It's almost a real-time map that will show all the remotes of the repeaters, including the master in the network. This is a huge tool that could be helpful in troubleshooting. With this, actually, you could just click on any of these nodes and go to that specific radio and make configuration changes, or update firmware, or do whatever change you want, and the radio will reboot itself. So sitting from one physical location, you could be updating configuration or firmware for your entire network. You won't have to do a physical visit to any of those sites anymore. So that's pretty much about SRM8200. Now I will go towards edge computing and how the software that we have, DATA-LINC, benefits. So edge computing is basically, according to Rockwell, well, edge computing is a distributed computing mechanism, and Rockwell defines it as a machine control and computing mechanism that that can either be with a controller that has a built-in computer or a computing module that sits on the same rack as the controller. So what this does is it brings machine data to where the controller is for better performance, space savings, or opportunities to build a production solution. So this edge computing, some of you might already know, the concept isn't new, but most of the industrial operations today run on central processing approach. It integrates intelligence to edge devices that allow data to be processed and analyzed in real time, close to data collection source. So the Internet of Things depend on the data collected from sensors across multiple locations, and certain data processing tasks are best performed at the source rather than in the cloud. So I will give you a real-life example of what edge computing brings to a traditional kind of SCADA network. So so I have a comparison, a side-by-side comparison of a traditional kind of network versus the IIoT way of controlling a network. So in a traditional central SCADA design, data from remote locations must travel the entire network to reach the central control, creating a demand for high bandwidth. So if there is a high latency and lack of enough bandwidth, some data might be left out, causing decisions to delay. On the other hand, edge computing is, by its distributed data collection and processing at the edge, you could optimize the bandwidth and mitigate lags in decision making caused by that kind of latency. So you have it gets processed more quickly and without overburdening the network or replacing the existing infrastructure. So you see, edge computing will make your operations agile. And edge computing is really the IIoT way of controlling and monitoring our operations. Now, let me give you a real-life example. So let's say you're in a situation of disaster where the wireless link of that network goes down. So you won't have a way to send your collected data to the central SCADA. You just lose the control of the operations, and you're left with no choice than to physically visit the site. But during a disaster, that's often a challenge. Now, having edge computing enabled devices will make the whole network recovery process easier and help you avoid downtime. You could actually install applications that can come into play during emergency and take control of the application and be saving those data collected. And when the network recovers, it could send. By then it will buffer all the data, and when the network comes back, it will send all the data collected to the central SCADA. So with this, we have a software called DATA-LINC. This DATA-LINC is actually the edge computing platform that comes inbuilt with SRM8200. You just have to enable the license, but it's already inbuilt out to every unit that's sent out. You just have to enable the license, and there's a licensing fee, I think probably $200 per unit. But once you have the license, you could activate the DATA-LINC software and and design apps or host applications in several languages compatible to Linux. So under the hood, it's Debian Linux operating system. It comes with 1 GHz ARM processor and 4 GB of storage space. So you could think of SRM8200 DATA-LINC as industrial kind of Raspberry Pi, where you could write applications in many languages like Python, Node-RED, C++, or any other Linux compatible language, and host those applications per your need. Let's see. So on this, here you see a visualization example. This is created in Node-RED. This is a Node-RED dashboard which shows the scales and gauzes bar charts and several things that can be it's analogous to an HMI, human machine interface, where you could it's basically, if you have a touchscreen monitor, you could be controlling your operations just by clicking or the gauges and the controls that you see on this dashboard. To the left here, this is the programming, the editor of Node-RED. Node-RED is a flow-based programming language, which is highly popular in IIoT today. You could create, design applications, and that could control and monitor your application. So this is just showing using Node-RED. You could write applications in many other languages. So if you have folks in IT who enjoy, programming and coding, they could write applications in Java or C++, and many other languages out there. So here's how you could use SRM8200 in your SCADA optimization. There are several markets where 8200 can be used. With 8200, you could modernize, automate, and transform your network. Especially with edge computing, you could run your applications in a smart way and make them agile. It fits in a whole bunch of applications. For example, in water, wastewater, it could be used for remote tank monitoring, water level automation, real-time leak detection, or in manufacturing industry, it could be used for product monitoring, tracking, factory robotics, supply chain optimization, process and monitoring control. Similarly, with utilities, smart grid systems, substation automation, cement and mining, and several others like predictive analytics and predictive maintenance. Those two are some of the new things that companies are starting doing today. It really helps when you get an indication of failure that might happen suddenly, and when you can predict, you can fix those things ahead of time and prevent unplanned downtimes. So with that,
may I ask real quick? Is that, to use kind of the general term firewall, is that edge computing firewall behind the AES 256 security?
I'm not sure about firewall. If there's a firewall inbuilt onto SRM8200, but it is secured by AES 256.
Okay. And then is there sample code available, or are you building it? I mean, obviously people are coders, they're using Python or other languages. People are going to want to build code, but there's got to be resources that they're going to want to build from. Is there a pretty rich library of sample code available?
Yeah, we have a reference manual that describes the S-Link in detail, and we're working on some applications that we plan to provide to our customers. So we aren't really a software company, but we are providing you the platform where you could host your applications. But yes, we do have a reference manual where you get to know the details of the software, and we will include some examples which will show you, which will at least get you started with how to use S-Link and harness the benefits of S-Link.
I could see some. We could probably talk offline, but I could see some real interesting things that I've been working on. I really could.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hog your. I don't want to hog this, but yeah, that's something we haven't really talked about, and it has some potential, really interesting things. So yeah, we'll talk offline.
Sounds good. Okay, so coming back, so SRM8200, like I said, it's more than just a traditional kind of wireless data exchange device. The wireless communication is the primary feature of this device. But on top of that, it comes with edge computing power, where you could locally compute and process the data that you have been collecting. It comes with network accelerators like further correction, packet aggregation, and packet compression. In addition to that, you have live network map that shows all the remotes or repeaters out there in the network. You could download a support bundle for troubleshooting, and the wireless data exchange mechanism is here we have is adaptive FHSS. You will see a lot of radio manufacturers today use FHSS, but adaptive FHSS is something new that we are bringing to the Rockwell channel. So I'm not sure how much time we have, but I'm gonna quickly go through a migration plan. And so we often get asked, we have a serial network where we want to migrate from serial to Ethernet, but we don't have enough budget. And how could we do this? So we have come up with a plan where you could do this in phases and in stages, one at a time, or I mean one side at a time. You don't have to do the entire installation upgrade at a go, in one go. So let's say this is your existing installation where you have your master with a serial PLC, and the serial PLC is controlled, is interfaced to a serial modem and is controlling the entire network. Now this could be using DF1 or some Modbus protocols, and you want to upgrade the network. So you start planning, and in next stage, you could add a 3-port serial port splitter, where with the 3-port splitter, one of the port could be connected to the serial PLC, the master existing serial PLC, whereas the other 2 ports one of the port can be used for SRM8200 serial connection, and the other could still be controlling the serial network through the serial modem. And you could start by adding one SRM8200 at the master side and one at one of the remote sites. That could still be serial, but in the next stage, you bring in a Micrologix 1100 as an alternate to a protocol converter, because the protocol converter the popular protocol converter, the NetENI from Rockwell, got obsolete. We can't find that anymore. So this Micrologix 1100 is, I think it costs about 700 something, and you could take the benefit of this PLC as a protocol converter and have the serial network as well as the SRM8200 network going over Ethernet on site 1, and while the Ethernet network for one site, where the serial network that you had could still be running on the serial through the serial modem. So this Micrologix 1100 will have 2 connections, one for serial and one for Ethernet. The Ethernet will be handled through SRM8200, while the serial can still be handled through the older serial network. And this could be any serial modem. It doesn't have to be our DATA-LINC modem. It could be any serial modem. Because the SRM8200 is not backward compatible to our serial modems, this doesn't really have a link between the older radios versus the 8200. So you could have any manufacturer's serial modem, and you could integrate 8200 in that network. So in the next stage, you could have more.
Could you repeat that again? Because I think that's a really important value point on these modems.
Certainly. So the SRM8200 actually comes with 2 kinds of ports, Ethernet port and the serial port. It's not really a protocol converter in itself. It's more of a terminal server. So under the hood, it will transmit Ethernet packets. But if you have a serial PLC and the serial PLC exchanges serial packets, the SRM8200 can take that serial packet and encapsulate that into Ethernet packets to transmit it across the network. So using this Micrologix 1100, what we are doing here is have a serial connection to the existing serial network and add a parallel master, which will be your SRM8200, and the SRM8200 will be controlling your site. And this is, you are doing this phase by phase. You add Ethernet PLC just at one site. So at one site, you have Ethernet connection. So at one site, you have migrated over to Ethernet, and the rest of the network is still running on serial network. So, this is this will depend upon applications. If you have a really large network, for example, 30 sites or so, the Micrologix 1100 might not be the best choice of PLC because it's not the heavy duty, it's not the heaviest duty PLC out there. There are other PLCs like Logix 5000 series, which are designed to handle more, larger networks, and that's what we will come down to in the coming stages. So this is the stage 2.
But it's flexible. It could use a 1400 or compact Logix or several varieties.
Yes, yeah, right. The 1400 comes with serial and Ethernet port as well. So instead of Micrologix 1100, you could be using a 1400 as well. The only reason why we are doing this, using a Micrologix 1100 is because if you integrate a protocol converter, then you'll have to do several kinds of configurations and stuff that might become tedious. So instead of that, Micrologix 1100 is it comes in. If you have a Micrologix 1100, it's such a popular PLC out there that you could make use of that PLC, and that will help you migrate from serial to Ethernet. So in the next stage, you have 2 sites that have been migrated to Ethernet now, Site 1 and Site 2, while Site 3 and Site 4 are still being controlled by the serial modem with the Micrologix 1100 connection here. If you look closely in this diagram, the serial networks are represented by red lines, whereas the Ethernet is being represented by blue lines. So the original system still remains on serial, whereas you have 2 sites that have migrated to Ethernet. And in next stage, we will now add a Logix 5000 controller. Some of the Logix 5000 controller, I think 5380, you have the ability to add serial racks as well. So serial racks that will have serial ports. So those kinds of PLCs can be modified into to both serial to include serial as well, but primarily by factory, I think these come with just serial with just Ethernet ports. Most of the PLCs today from Rockwell, they I don't know why, but they have just eliminated serial ports from their PLCs. Like in latest laptops, you won't see serial ports anymore. Similarly, in many PLCs out there today, you don't get serial port by default from factory. So in this stage, you still have the Micrologix 1100 controlling the serial network here with the red connections, red lines, and the Logix 5000 controller with a parallel master SRM8200 is controlling the Ethernet network. So gradually, you move from one side to another, and you are adding sites that are going from serial to Ethernet. So the upgraded Logix 5000 controller is handling the Ethernet part of the network, whereas the Micrologix 1100 is handling the serial part of the network. And in stage 6, when you have migrated at your site 1, 2, 3, 4, at your remote locations, when you have migrated to Ethernet, you could eliminate that Micrologix 1100 completely and just have the Logix 5000 controller handle the entire network. So I'm not sure how much time we have. It's already past 9. Can we go over like 5
Touch on this. Take 5 minutes and hit this because it's really interesting if you could. 5 minutes. Sure.
So HSM800E is another product that we're going to talk about today. I will try to quickly buzz through this. So it's a high-speed modem, Wi-Fi compatible. Can be operated as wireless access point or wireless client or access point repeater mode. There are several security RF encryption options available: WEPA, WEP2 PSK. It's IP65 rated. It could be installed directly outdoors where you would normally install an antenna. It combines OFDM and 802.11 BGN technology. There are 2 versions of this, HSM800E and HSM500E. The 500E is the 5 gigahertz version where we have 23 non-overlapping channels, whereas the 800E, the 2.4 gigahertz modem, which comes with 3 non-overlapping channels. The range and the power definitely varies. The range for the 2.4 version is longer than the range for the 5 gigahertz version. But the operation, the configuration, and installation methods, all of them remain the same. The 2.4 gigahertz is more crowded Wi-Fi band than the 5 gigahertz. So in some applications, you might find 5 gigahertz version, or more specifically 5.8 gigahertz version, useful for your application. It's a PoE device. The data and the power can be carried. It carries both power and data through just one Ethernet cable, Cat5 or Cat6. So you could have to the right here, you see a typical installation, a connection diagram where you use a PoE device. We actually sell this PoE device standalone as well, but this is useful for powering HSM800E. This PoE will supply the power. It's connected to this 24 volts DC here. It's going to supply power for this HSM800E, and in turn it can carry the.
And that's the handiest PoE in the industry. That is the handiest one. It can be DIN rail mounted. It is super handy.
Yeah, it can be DIN rail mounted or surface mounted. So it comes with 2 ports, data and power. So on the left here, on the right, I have it connected to a switch where it's exchanging data, whereas on the other port, it's carrying power and the data being transmitted from HSM800E. There are several kinds of installation options. These two over here on the screen shows one through a MIMO antenna, the 2x2 MIMO antenna option, where you will just need one antenna. The HSM800E is a MIMO device, 2x2 MIMO device, where it's a dual stream. But you could just use a MIMO antenna, so you will have one antenna per connection. To the right, you see a different design where you have 2 antennas per connection, but it's not very convenient in terms of installation, because you will have to deal with antenna alignment, orientation, polarization, that kind of things. But with the MIMO antenna option, you just have one antenna per modem, and you could have 2 coaxial cables running from the modem to the antenna. So this is in a use case where we have a bridge. This is an elevator bridge on top of a river, where this is controlling 16, a total of 16 radios, and is used for monitoring monitoring of the motion of the elevator cars and other parameters like wind speed. Some radios go up and down with elevator cars, while others stay stationary. And in this case, all radios can talk to each other and report to the central SCADA office. This has been running flawlessly for over 2 years. And with that completes our presentation for today. And I'm not sure if we have time, but any questions are welcome. We'll be here.
Jay, did you have any specific applications that you were working on?
Myself? Well, I've been working on applications with wells, and you've known about a couple of them, multiple well sites and lift stations. So you folks have known 1 or 2 of them. I see a couple of names here that have been engaged in 1 or 2 of them. Gary's not here. He's been on 1 of them. So listen, I appreciate everybody showing up, and I really appreciate Brian and Dilip. If you guys have seen these, these are kind of the frontier products, especially that Edge. I didn't even know that feature, and it's got my mind churning on it. But they've got other products, distributed I/O, that by radio connects to their Logix as an add-on profile. That's really cool. Along with these, what they didn't mention about the HSM 800E and 500 is that they are the cost leader, along with being outdoor rated. They are the cost leader in the industry. So there are applications you can apply those to in our water industry that you can walk in the door with those and say, we can be competitive without even trying. They're sub $1,000 and easily sub $1,000, right out of the gate right now. And it's an opportunity to really speak to customers where their needs are and be competitive and get opportunities you hadn't had before. So again, I appreciate Brian and Dilip investing their time with us and putting this together with us, and work with myself, work with Juan, or work with Randy to pull these together and see what we can pull off for opportunities, because this is a good company. This is one that we've had opportunities and results from. So thank you both. Again, any questions or things, feel free to ask now or jump in on specialists or call Dilip and Brian yourselves. So.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask now, or we have our contact information here on the screen. If you get a project or have questions about it, feel free to reach out to us. We'll try to help you out. And thank you, everyone, for attending this session.
Thanks, guys. Very good. Yeah, we recorded it as well. We'll make it available on some platform or another. We'll get it out. Okay?
Cool. Thanks much.
Everybody have a great day.
Thank you. We'll now stop the cancel meeting. Thank you.